Tim, can we at least agree, talking of Easter, that British chocolate is vastly superior to American chocolate?
I'm sure it is, Piers. I'm sure it is. I don't know, though.
I think this is a problem that Robert F. Kennedy is trying to fix.
You know, Cadbury eggs are made in Hershey now. Cadbury eggs are made in Pennsylvania.
Jack, great to meet you. Longtime fan. Like, you are one of the internet's biggest conspiracy theorists, and I'm very glad to be on this panel with you, so I could just call you out for that. But like everything, how was
your Kamala Harris campaign last year? How did that go? Did that go as well as your weight loss, Mike? How are you still like this when there's still Ozempic? How are you still like this when Ozempic exists, Mike?
Jack, hang on, let me talk for a second.
Mike, how many steps are you up to today? No, if you're going to come out here and attack me personally, then I'm going to respond right back.
What'd you say to me, though? I didn't hear it.
If you're going to come out here and attack me personally, then I'm going to come right back.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, got another Piers Morgan debate coming in for you guys, and Democrats just will not stand down on this issue at all. They are just completely blind to what's going on. They don't realize, I think, at least in my opinion, they can't seem to see that they are on the wrong side of this one, even though, you know, the Trump administration is continually showing more and more and more evidence that, yes, the Democrats are wrong. This guy was deported on purpose, intentionally, because he is tied to MS-13, right? The order of stay, if you will, that didn't allow him to be deported to El Salvador came before we found out he was an MS-13 gang member. The Alien Enemies Act, as a matter of fact, supersedes that order of stay. So hang on there just a second. We've got some issues to work out with this, but we're going to litigate that here in this video. So y'all make sure and smash that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and check out my regular videos. I cover the news and point out media manipulations and all that good stuff. So y'all make sure and stay tuned for all that stuff. But without any further ado, let's just jump right into this right quick.
Mike Nellis, let's start first of all with Kilmar Garcia. What's your assessment of it?
Yeah, my take on this is that, you know, look, the American people voted for stronger border security. They voted to get dangerous criminals, violent criminals out of this country. I accept that. I also want that. What I don't think the American people voted for is getting rid of due process. The way you determine whether somebody is a criminal in this country is through the judicial system. You have to go through that process, and there are processes that are set up to remove people like Kilmar or anybody else. The federal government has produced no evidence that Kilmar is a danger. He was doing everything that he was supposed to do, everything the federal government was telling him to do. He was following the instructions he was given by ICE. The only evidence the conservative movement that the Trump administration has made is that he owns a Bulls hat. And if we're going to start throwing away people and locking them up because they have Bulls hats, we have a lot bigger problems in this country than people coming across the border. And look, I would put it this way. We have Dinesh on the panel today. Like, Dinesh, like you are someone I have profound disagreements with. I'm sure we're going to get into some of those today. You were born in India, and you're here legally. I want you here. I support your right to free speech. But if we start throwing people like you out of the country with the Democratic president, like, that's not right either, and I don't want that. And I want to make sure that people have access to due process. So they've got to show that Kilmar is a dangerous criminal, which I don't think they can do, because otherwise they would have already done it. Otherwise, we need to bring this guy home. That's what the Supreme Court has ruled. And every day that Trump is not listening to the Supreme Court, we're in the middle of a constitutional crisis.
And this is exactly what I mean. They just continually ignore the facts of the case. As a matter of fact, he's like, no, we have to prove he was a dangerous criminal. No, he was slated for deportation, as a matter of fact. People keep ignoring this, that he came into the country illegally. People that enter the country illegally get deported from this country. That is the basis for all of this. The fact that he was an MS-13 gang member, you know, even if you want to be fair and say allegedly MS-13 gang member, doesn't matter. The MS-13 part just expedites his deportation even further and actually justifies us sending him to CECOT, the terrorist confinement center in El Salvador. That justifies that, as a matter of fact. He's had his due process. This is what they keep screaming. Oh, we need due process. You're trying to get rid of due process. Blah, blah, blah. He's had his due process, as a matter of fact. As he got his due process, then he appealed that due process and got his appellate hearing. And the appeals judge decided, yes, we're going to deport this guy. As a matter of fact, just put it on hold for a while until we can figure out where to send him, because they didn't want to send him to El Salvador. But once again, that was before we figured out he was an MS-13 gang member. That was before the restraining order from his wife. That was before all of this stuff. He was arrested. Think about this. He was arrested with MS-13 gang members. Okay? He had on affiliate clothing of said gang. He's got the tattoos. As a matter of fact, Trump dropped that information this morning. They showed the tattoos on his fingers, and now the media is trying to say, oh, it's an edited photo of this. It's like, come on, guys. Stop with your delusions. Stop with your nonsense. Stop with all of this. This guy was legitimately deported, right? And they keep loving to use that whole, oh, he was mistakenly deported. Well, no, that was a Biden holdover who has now been fired for lying to the court system. Yes, that was a lie, the whole mistakenly deported nonsense. That was a lie from a Biden holdover trying to make the Trump administration look bad. That is what that was. If you don't believe me, go look it up. I'm not going to litigate all that right here, right now. But needless to say, Democrats are dying on the hill of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and that is going to be their resting place, as a matter of fact. Let's keep going.
Right, but you're saying it's simply not true. You believe 100% he was an MS-13 gang member. My concern about this story is not that if he is a gang member,
the order that he was
gang,
deported was not that he was MS-13 member. It was that he was illegal. That was the original order. And then the second order came out that said he was deported to a different country, not El Salvador.
So hold on for just a second. First of all, Jack, great to meet you. Longtime fan. Like, you are one of the internet's biggest conspiracy theorists, and I'm very glad to be on this panel with you, so I could just call you out for that. But like everything, how was
your Kamala Harris campaign last year? How did that go? Did that go as well as your weight loss, Mike? How are you still like this when there's still Ozempic? How are you still like this when Ozempic exists, Mike?
Jack, hang on, let me talk for a second.
Mike, how many steps are you up to today? No, if you're going to come out here and attack me personally, then I'm going to respond right back.
What'd you say to me, though? I didn't hear it.
If you're going to come out here and attack me personally, then I'm going to come right back.
I'm happy to have it, buddy. I'm happy to have it. But look, here's the deal. This guy, this man, Kilmar, they've separated him from his wife and family. They've done it with no due process. There's no evidence.
No, his wife separated him from his wife and family when she filed a restraining order on him. She doesn't want him home. She's in court. She's in court filing a restraining order.
Shut up for a second and let somebody else talk. All right, you're going to get plenty of time. It's a long show. All right, and Piers is going to step in when I'm talking too much. The only person that I've seen talking about this restraining order is you. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's not. But you don't have a track record of telling me.
You don't care about what his wife actually filed in court.
You are one of the biggest liars on the internet today. At the end of the day,
I'm more than happy. I can provide you the order right now. Provide your order right now. Here's the number.
This man is violent. They should have no problem facing a judge, but they don't want to face a judge. They don't want to go through.
She did face the judge.
That's because they know they don't have anything, and you know it too.
She faced the judge when she went in for a restraining order on him.
Yeah, Dinesh, I want to ask you, Dinesh.
You don't know about it because you haven't actually looked up the receipts, Mike.
So the problem, Jack, is you don't have any credibility on anything.
I'm happy to provide you the order.
Let's try and keep the ad hominem attacks to a limited number, please. Dinesh, you want to get in here?
Yeah, I think this is not a dispute of ill will here. By and large, today, the journalist Andy Ngo reported, and he provided receipts. He showed the court document where Abrego Garcia's wife did file the restraining order. He noted the irony that she is now claiming that he is a wonderful husband and is apparently raising a whole bunch of money off of his name. So, this was what came out this morning with accompanying receipts. I think the big question here is this. On this issue of deporting illegals, who should be making the decision? I think the reason that Trump has declared the invasion, it's part of his way of saying, listen, I ran for election in front of 300 million people, and I was given a mandate to do this. So shouldn't it be my call as to whether or not somebody who is illegally in this country gets to stay here or goes home? It was, in fact, Biden's call for the past 4 years to bring all these illegals here. Why shouldn't it now be my call to send them home? These judges have not been elected by anybody. So sure, there is a due process that should be held. But if you declare an invasion, I think this was the logic of declaring the invasion. And what else do you call swarms, not tens, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of people coming illegally into the country? What is that if not an invasion?
He was also elected to
but I would
get
say
rid of government overreach.
I would say,
and yet we've allowed it.
And you see, the Democrats are absolutely doing what they do best on this, and that's deny reality. Just ignore reality and just keep screaming louder than the next guy. And then when you run out of facts, just go to ad hominem attacks. Personally attack somebody. Oh, they lost all their credibility. Even though we're producing receipts right here and, giving that to you as a matter of fact. I totally agree with what they're saying right here. There's all this evidence to show this guy's a scumbag, and Democrats are still getting behind this guy, like blindly following Kilmore Abrego Garcia, screaming due process, due process, due process, when he's already had his due process. And, we can continue to litigate this, but I like to look at this like, okay, so why are Democrats so vehemently behind this guy? Well, to me, it just seems like they had an angle they could go in against Trump. Oh, they're denying due process because they got caught flat-footed, as a matter of fact, on this one, right? They didn't realize that the Alien Enemies Act could be used to just ship terrorists out of the country without due process, right? So all this due process screaming that is going on, right, has actually forced the Supreme Court to overturn the Constitution on this, right? They keep talking about constitutional crisis constantly all day long, blah, 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 constitutional crisis. Well, it's the courts that are actually creating the constitutional crisis, because we have a federal government that is doing its job under the Constitution. Then we have these outside groups, civil liberties unions, the ACLU, and non-governmental organizations suing the administration to stop the administration from carrying out its constitutional duties. Don't y'all find that a little bit fishy? Oh, well, if you're on one side, no, that's totally fine. That's an everyday occurrence to have outside groups stop the federal government from lawfully carrying out its constitutional authorities to do. That, to me, sounds fishy as heck, if you don't mind, because, the Alien Enemies Act allows terrorists to be swiftly, expeditiously deported from this country. That's what that allows for. That was writ into the Constitution back in the day when it was not long after it was created, 1798, as a matter of fact, simply for this reason. And the corporate press, they love to say, oh, well, this is a wartime law. Yeah, partially, sure. But it also says for predatory incursions, which what else do you call criminal gangs entering our country illegally and then committing crimes? That's a predatory incursion, as a matter of fact, because they're preying upon American citizens, for goodness sakes. Like, how do we stop this? Well, we could get the federal government to round all these people up and ship them out, but Democrats don't want us to do that. Don't we find that a bit absurd, people? Like, seriously. I just find this all fascinating now that the Supreme Court has come in and say, well, the Alien Enemies Act, well, we don't like it, so we're going to stop it. Now we have to have habeas hearings for all of these people deported under the Alien Enemies Act. So nullifying that part of the Constitution, nullifying that law. Pretty much now it's just a regular deportation operation. It is what it is, though. The Supreme Court has spoken, and the Trump administration is following suit. It's following the orders of that court. Y'all got to check out my next video, by the way. It's funny. It's going to be great. But without any further ado, let's keep going.
No, I'm with you that they don't have any real evidence. There's no solid evidence he was MS-13. It doesn't really matter if his wife had a restraining order against him or not. Plenty of people have those and they didn't do anything wrong. It's a tactic for child custody. The fact is, though, he was illegally in the country. So I don't really care whether he was MS-13 or not, quite frankly. I think that we just get rid of everybody who's illegal. They've just got to go back to where they came from. And if it's unsafe for them, then they'll have to find somewhere else to go, or they'll have to work on some other protection. It's not our job, unfortunately. I mean, as much as I'd love to have a bleeding heart and save everybody, we can't do it. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, the facts of the case actually don't matter, except for the fact he was illegal. And I just keep bringing it back to Trump is using terrorism. And that's the plot that I don't know why people are just, we're missing this completely. That aspect of it, if you want to talk about due process, if you want to talk about government overreach, I mean, Trump ran on not only getting rid of all of the illegals from the country and securing the border, but he also ran on getting rid of government overreach. And using terrorism is just marching in a very dystopian future, especially when Trump sits there in the White House and says, homegrowns are next. Then he goes on Fox News and reiterates homegrowns are next. I think we got to be focusing more on the fact that terrorism was used as the excuse, not the fact that whether or not he was MS-13, debating the merits of every single individual case. Illegals are illegals. That's it. You don't need to know any more. And then we just focus on what process are we going to use to get rid of them. Terrorism is not the way.
I Googled yesterday how many illegal immigrants are in the United States, and about 4 different results came up, which suggested around 13 million. So I tweeted about that and said, would you genuinely deport 13 million illegal immigrants, to which there was a resounding yes. And then people said, but actually it's nearer 30 million. Then some said 50 million. Some said even maybe it's as high as 100 million. Once you add in all the dreamers, all the kids of people who came in illegally, who knows how many? Are we going to end up deporting? And it's a genuine question. If you believe that all illegal immigrants in the United States of America, a country literally founded on immigrants, are you going to deport potentially 50 to 100 million people currently in America? And what will that do to actually the fabric of society in America, much of which relies on immigrant work? So, I mean, these are legitimate questions, which I don't have the answer to. It's not my country. But how do you feel, Kim, about the idea of potentially, if you literally take it literally, that you end up deporting 50 to 100 million people? Would you be comfortable with that?
Yes, we would have to do it. We have to rip the Band-Aid off, and we have to abide by laws. I think that what would happen, though, I think you're right, there's a fabric of society that is built on immigration, and if we start deporting absolutely everybody who's here illegally, then maybe Congress would for once do their job and actually make new immigration laws that would allow for people to come into the country legally. And, it would actually force them to actually do their job rather than appear on shows or campaign constantly. So I think it would cause a ripple effect.
Okay, so I'm going to get this out of the way right quick. I can't stand this argument, we're a country built upon immigration. Well, not really. The country was founded on colonization, which is vastly different. That's people going to somewhere where there's no infrastructure whatsoever. You're essentially going into a wood and building a nation. They built this nation, and then immigrants came after that, right? So we've had a lot of immigrants come into this country, and most everybody, if you poll Americans, the vast majority of Americans will agree with legal immigration. We love legal immigrants. You come into this country, you come in the correct way. But so getting that out of the way, I can't stand that characterization of the country that this is a country of immigrants. Well, yeah, ish. Right? It's kind of not. It was colonization that founded this nation. And then, sure, we've had a lot of immigration, but, outside of that. Getting back to this, I love how these people, the Democrats, to try to seem sane, to try to seem like we're with you on this, that they'll say, we need to get rid of all the illegal immigrants. But then to say that because Donald Trump is using terrorism, this is government overreach. It's absolutely not. It's absolutely not, because would these same people feel the exact same way? I'm sorry, I just slapped my mic on accident, but would they feel the exact same way if Mexico decided to invade this country, or China, or any other nation decide to invade this country? Would they say, hang on, all these enemy soldiers, they need due process? I'm serious on this one, because that's what the Alien Enemies Act does. This group of gang members have infiltrated into this country and have started setting up camp inside the United States. And these people are making the argument that they deserve the same due process rights that you and I get. That's what they're arguing for. Does that, on what planet does that make any sense at all? This is tantamount, once again, to an invading army. Just because it's not sanctioned by a government, and it's because it's not as organized, doesn't mean it's not an invading force. It's not a predatory incursion of these great United States. I'm sorry, just because you don't like the means by which the administration is expelling these invaders, I'm sorry, cry some more. The administration should absolutely be allowed to do this. But now, since the Supreme Court has stated for a fact that the administration has to give anybody and everybody due process, now if China decides to invade, that's the precedent that has been set. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous and sounds far-fetched, but it's the God's honest truth when you look at the precedent that has been set by the Supreme Court. If Democrats were to say, no, the Chinese invaders, they get due process rights, they would have to go along with it. That's ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. But that's the precedent that has been set. That's indisputable facts. Let's keep going.
The Democrat Party surely now has to move to a place where it can avoid the battering ram that Kamala got, your lady, when Trump did the Trump's for you and she's for they, them ad, which was so devastatingly effective. What do you make of that UK ruling? And what do you think about the way the party has to go forward now and accept that this kind of very far left woke ideology, what many people think is science and biology denying ideology, has got to stop if you want to get re-elected?
I mean, I haven't taken a look at the ruling from the UK yet, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But what I do think Democrats need to do is get back to basics. And I actually agree with Jack. We have to get back to talking about economic issues. We have to start taking that seriously again, because Piers, a second ago, you said that the Democrats got drubbed in the last election. I would tell you it was a lot closer than I think a lot of folks on the right in MAGA world would like to perceive. But we lost because we didn't do enough to help people put food on the table, buy a house, retire with dignity, start a family. And I would argue that
you lost everything. Well, hang on. Let's go through it. You lost the White House, you lost the House, you lost the Senate, you lost the popular vote, you lost the Electoral College. I don't know what else you call that other than an absolute drubbing. You can quibble about the exact numbers,
4 years ago,
but you can't quibble about the scale of the win. For Donald Trump, 4 years after January 6th, for Donald Trump to win the popular and electoral college vote was truly stunning. Truly stunning. And a repudiation of much of what the Democrats stand for, which is why the Democrat Party popularity right now is polling in the mid-20s. Historic lows.
So, look, the point that I'm making is that it wasn't a landslide. We lost everything, but everything was pretty close. And that's the point that I'm making. So Donald Trump's been trying to act like he has this giant mandate to do all this crazy stuff that people didn't vote for and people don't want. What people voted for were cheaper grocery prices. He's making grocery prices more expensive because of the tariffs. They voted for more affordable housing. These lumber tariffs on Canada are going to make new houses explode in terms of prices. People were already stretched thin, and Democrats didn't do enough to support them, didn't do enough to help them, didn't do enough to make them feel seen either. We spent way too much time telling people how great the economy was and not doing enough of listening to people's concerns. We have to get back to that. But every problem that we had economically when Donald Trump won 6 months ago, or however long it's been, is worse today because of the tariffs. He's done nothing to make prices more affordable, and he promised to do that on day one. And so I think the pathway for Democrats to get back is to focus in on economic issues, try to shut out as much of the other stuff that for the vast majority of people, they don't care about. Doesn't mean it's not important and we don't try to figure out how we talk about it, but economic issues are going to be the core way that we get back, because Donald Trump is making the economy dramatically worse right now.
I totally agree with most of that, but he's simply denying reality that Donald Trump doesn't have a mandate, that wasn't a landslide. Sure, you want to look at the base numbers and say it wasn't a landslide? Go ahead and make that argument. But if you look at everything in totality, right, the fact that Democrats actually helped Donald Trump win this election, I know that may come as a shock to a lot of people, but it's the absolute truth. If Democrats would not have went after him politically through the Justice Department, he probably wouldn't have got as much support. Democrats absolutely handed this landslide victory to Donald Trump. If you look at a map of the shift to the right towards Donald Trump, of the entire nation pretty much shifted toward Donald Trump. in this election cycle. Yeah, that's bad. Now, to correct something, Democrats did not lose the House. The Republicans already held the House, but they did lose the Senate. They did lose the White House, sure. And Donald Trump does have a mandate because, once again, if you take the Donald Trump post January 6th, I'm talking like within the next couple of weeks, and say that he's going to win the next presidential election cycle, I bet you 70, 80% of the country would have said, no freaking way. It's impossible. But he won. He absolutely won. Now, that is mostly due to Democrats going after him politically and then going after these culture war issues, pushing this gender ideology up in people's face, just shoving it in their face, and that's it. He's right. They need to get back to politics. They need to get away from this nonsense. But are they going to be able to do that? Are they going to be able to just drop their principles and still win elections? That's the key, because a lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, hang on. What happened to their principles of standing up for women and standing up for the trans folks and all this other nonsense that they've been pushing for the past 10, 15 years? They're going to look very bad. You're going to have new politicians come in. Somebody that's not tied to this woke ideology nonsense. Somebody that's not, affiliated with the current iteration of Democrats. Somebody's going to have to come in and sweep the Democrats off their feet, essentially. You're going to have new blood. Because otherwise, once again, like I said, they're going to look like shills. Absolutely look like shills. Look like turncoats, as a matter of fact. And they're going to absolutely split the Democratic Party. They've already done it. The Democratic Party is in shambles right now. Their polling numbers are in the gutter. They are splintering, or they've splintered just outright. You've got a big section of the Democrat Party want to get back to where the Democrats used to be. A bunch of Democrats are saying the Democratic Party has left us. Just outright. Don't know if they're going to go independent because they are hardcore Democrats. Then you've got this other wing, this far left, ideologically driven, just garbage wing of the Democratic Party, this socialist, communist, Marxist nonsense that is dragging the entire party into a black hole that they're never going to come back from. I know that may sound dire. Well, it kind of is, as a matter of fact. It is dire because that's what they're doing. We've defeated communism time and time again. At least in this country, we've defeated communism. We've defeated communism on the world stage as well. I might not have done it in Vietnam. Sure, give you that one. Whatever. Well, that was due to other factors, but, at the same time, look what communism has done to that area. Yeah, it's not very good, is it? Look at North Korea. Vietnam's not all that well off right now anyway. They're being propped up by the Chinese. And China couldn't go full-on communist either. They had to relent and open up to a capitalist system. Right? It's kind of a blend between communism and capitalism, which I don't know if that's going to work in the long run. Because it doesn't promote freedom at all. Definitely doesn't promote freedom at all. But Democrats need to get back to classical liberal values if they want to get some sort of semblance of party control, of popularity in this country. I think the Cenk-Uygurs of the Democrat Party need to pounce on this opportunity that they have to get on top of the game. Boot out the old establishment people from the Democratic Party. Shun the far left wing of your party. Get them out of there because all they're doing is dragging down the Democratic Party. Populism is the future of this country. And I think if the Cenk-Uygurs, people like that, just pounce on this opportunity, once again, like I said, and prove to the American people that they can be trusted with government, I think the Democrats could make a very, very strong comeback. Maybe not in 2028, but maybe in 2032. We'll have to see how this goes. We will have to see how this goes. We'll have to see how the midterms go and all of that good nonsense. But the Democrats, they have lost a lot, and they really need. Some of them have come to terms with the loss and have figured out we need change, but it's convincing the rest of the Democratic Party to do so. I think they need to excise certain segments. That's just my honest opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. I would love to hear from you guys, but I think that's all I got on this one. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this, about all these topics. I'd love to hear from you guys. So y'all put your comments down below. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know where I'm right. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. I've got memberships now if you'd like to sign up. That would be spectacular. It'd be fantastic if we could get some people to sign up to the channel. That would be great. But I think that's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.